Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm here with Sam St. John. Today, we came up with a solo Beatles 10 favorite songs, but with some parameters we've set. We're going to do one Ringo, two George, three John, and four Paul songs. And we'll take them on one at a time, like a little reverse pyramid, so to speak. Start
Yep.
at the bottom, work our way to the top. A little fun exercise, nothing deep. Some of the songs that have sunk in with us through the last 50, 60 years, and let's do it. What do you think, Sam? This was a little fun exercise.
It was. And we were saying it's interesting because, you look at obviously Paul and Ringo have these expansive careers. Ringo's putting out an album every year now, it seems. And even Paul, Ringo's being more prolific than Paul. Ringo relies so much on other writers and everything, and Paul's kind of doing his own thing. But they were, it was a fun exercise. It was a little difficult for a couple of them. And I was kind of mentioning before we jumped on, I kind of took this in the sense of making a mix for somebody who doesn't, they just know the Beatles. They don't really know anything about, the fact that all four of them did their own thing for, however many years. So maybe a deep cut or two, but mostly it's going to kind of stick to the straight and narrow of songs that are just fantastic that I still don't get tired of them. So I'm interested to see if we match up on anything.
We'll see. I went with mostly hits because when I want to hear a Beatles solo song, I'm going to go for what I consider their best, and most of them are their hits. I'm not as, deep cut driven as maybe you are, but for this exercise, I expect that 4 or 5 matchups. We'll see how we do.
Good.
You're going to go first with your Ringo song, and then I'll go with Ringo, and then we'll move on to George.
Yeah, Ringo was pretty easy for me just because it's the song that I sing from him all the time. It was a non-album single, I think from 1972. And just in like my brief reading, it was recorded by him and George shortly after the concert for Bangladesh. And the song is Back Off Boogaloo.
Mm-hmm.
I love, it's kind of a marching kind of tune. It's heavy drums. It's almost like that wall of sound feel that Ringo did in the 70s, on the Ringo album, and, Goodnight Vienna, all that stuff. Just tons of instruments. And, Ringo for his whole life has relied on his friends. So, you have, Beatles are on here, all the usual cats. I think maybe Nicky Hopkins is on here as well. Pretty easy, straightforward lyrics. There's nothing deep about it. Just them going, back off Boogaloo. What you think you're gonna do? It's so good. I was hoping that he would do this the one time that I saw him in 2019. And I think he did on the second leg of the tour. So when I was at the show, I got to see him do Year 16, which I like that song too.
Yeah.
But Back Off Boogaloo has always been, my favorite Ringo song. So that's what I'm going to go with for him.
Good one. Mine is, I went with the 1973 pop ballad, Photograph. I just always loved the song. Lost Love, sorrowful kind of tune, co-written by George. It's got, like you said, the usual suspects on here. Nicky Hopkins is on piano, Bobby Keys on sax, Klaus Bormann, and of course Jim Keltner on drums, even though Ringo could do his own drumming. And it applies to anyone's life, really. Any kind of loss, whether you lost a loved one or a relationship or a relative. You can look at that photograph. All I got's this photograph, and I realize you're not coming back anymore. He may not have written it about that, but it applies to that now. You see a photograph of you and whoever that you're, mourning or sorrowful for. It reminds you of those places we used to go or be, and that's what's all contained in the lyrics. So sentimental schmaltz, but I love it, and I'm going with it. Photograph, my Ringo song.
Co-written by George.
Co-written by George, and actually performed at the concert for George the year after his passing.
Yep.
Let's move on to George. Now, for George, we've got 2 songs. We're working our way up, so.
Yeah, and I'll go chronologically. So originally I had 2 songs from the All Things Must Pass album, but then I said, no, I really want to pull a song from, another album. I know a lot of people say All Things Must Pass is the best solo Beatles album over the 4 of them. You have heavy albums like, Imagine, and, the Ringo album is huge. Band on the Run is huge, but But I mean, I knew I had to pull my favorite solo George song, which is from All Things Must Pass, and that is the song "Isn't It a Pity."
Yeah.
Epic track. Obviously, it kind of has a little bit of the motif of "Hey Jude" at the end. Just a beautiful song that I was really first introduced to because of the concert for George when I was much younger. Seeing Billy Preston play it and Clapton, all those guys that were on there. Danny, his son, was on that group. Jeff Lynne. Just an absolutely beautiful song. Again, a kind of longing. It sounds like a song written by a man much older in years than George. I think George was still just 27 when this album came out, and which is crazy to think that he was that young.
Yeah.
Especially now that I'm no longer 27 or 28. It's weird to think about that. That the Beatles were in their solo careers and they were younger than I was, younger than I am. And just a fantastic song, like, isn't it a pity? Isn't it a shame how we break each other's hearts and cause each other pain? Just gorgeous lyrics. And then like that sorrowful slide guitar is it just cries. And the horns, it's a perfect song. It would definitely be in my top 50 songs of all time. I just absolutely love this song. And so then I'm going to jump from his first official solo album, I would say, to his last album, which came out posthumously. And this is probably the deepest cut that I have on here. It's the song from the album Brainwash, which was, again, it was posthumous. It was produced by George with Jeff Lynne and his son Danny. And it's the song Any Road, which actually does appear on several greatest hits compilations by George. So, you can find this on comps. It's not like it's this, B-side to a 45 or anything. But it's a great ukulele tune because George was a great ukulele player. And it's old George singing. I say old, he was in his 50s. But for us, that was old. That was old George. And it kind of drew upon some of his, Indian readings, his spirituality and all that. But, the line is, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. Just gorgeous. If you don't know the song, check it out. It's upbeat, even if the lyrics are kind of, about, mortality and that kind of thing. But that ukulele makes it so cheery. So I'm going to go with Any Road as my second choice.
Nice. All right. My two George songs, one of them we have hit on. I have Isn't It a Pity also as one of mine. Couldn't leave it off. There's like a 7-minute version and then a 4-minute version on that album. Both are excellent. Take your pick. Haunting, hypnotic, everything you said. Beautiful song. The lyrics are fantastic. Billy Preston, Gary Wright, who recently passed away, is on here also, electric piano. The guys from Badfinger are in the background playing some guitars as well. Pete Ham and what's his name? Evans. There's a bunch of them. I think three of the Badfinger guys. Very empathetic and sensitive lyrics. And it's a catchphrase that you can use in any situation in life. Isn't it a pity? Anybody you're feeling for at that time. Universally, cool lyrics, sorrowful, sad, but they work perfectly in the song. And it could be George reflecting on maybe the recent breakup of the Beatles back in 1972. Isn't it a pity? Isn't it a shame? Because even though he had material that wasn't being recognized or allowed to be on Beatles albums, he had this backlog of stuff. He was probably saying, isn't it a pity? And we couldn't have worked it out and stayed together. I don't know. That's just an interpretation. But that's my first song. My second one is my favorite George song, and that is What Is Life? Same album, All Things Must Pass. Made it to number 10 as a single. It's got that, I think it's got the Phil Spector Wall of sound on it, Great slide guitar as usual by George. Clapton's on here, Bobby Whitlock and Carl Radle and Jim Gordon of the Derek and the Dominoes band at the time. And Pete Ham again and Tom Evans on this. It's got like an all-star cast. It's just pop music positivity. What is my life without your love? It's upbeat, sing along. It's got that anthemic quality. Everything I want in a Beatles song, or in this case, solo Beatles song. So that's going to be in my two George songs as we go along here.
What is life is cool because it's almost like a part one to the song "Heading for the Light," which the Traveling Wilburys did on their first album. Those
Yeah,
big horns. It's a fantastic song. It's one of those timeless songs that doesn't sound like the '70s. It's its own thing.
it is. And
I've always thought it was timeless.
that opening little riff, every time you hear it, you're hooked,
Oh no
man.
no no!
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Great.
we're moving on to John, and John gets 3 songs in our little exercise here. So I'm
Yep.
interested to see what you have.
Yeah, this was the most difficult of the 3. As we were talking before cameras started rolling, before our film crew came in. We John is, in terms of the solo stuff, John's my least favorite, and he's my least ventured into. But I'm gonna start with the song "Instant Karma," one of his big songs. Again, it's kind of a sparse sounding song, and I say that meaning like his vocals sound like they're off the mic, which I know John was always self-conscious about his vocals. It's kind of got that John effect on it. And then there's like that screaming chorus that is there. You know, it's an anthem we all shine on, like the moon, the stars, and the sun. It's like, it's everybody's like raising their fists up kind of thing. Because John was the most political vocally of the four guys. So I had to put Instant Karma on there. It was just a rocking song. That chorus goes on in the fade at the end, on and on and on. That's just really, really good. The last 2 are later day John songs. I'm going to go with "Watching the Wheels," which is just an absolutely beautiful song from Double Fantasy, I believe.
Yep.
Just a gorgeous song. I fell in love with the song originally with the acoustic version. It's actually still my preferred version. It was a comp album that came out a few years after he died. It was called like John Lennon Acoustic. It was his demos and that sort of thing. It's a song that I play from time to time on guitar. Again, one of those songs about life. He's, I'm just sitting here watching the wheels go round and round. I really love to watch them roll. No longer riding on the merry-go-round. I just had to let it go. Just gorgeous. I love how he sings it.
Yeah.
And it's talking about, people look at him and think that he's kind of strange because everybody always pointed John out. Like he was like the Bob Dylan of the group. He was the one that people wanted to criticize. Why is he married to Yoko? Why is he being political? Why is he laying in bed? Why is his hair long? Like all that stuff. John was the guy they could kick. So that had to be my list. That's probably my favorite John song, post Beatles for sure. And then the last one, again from that same era, Just Like Starting Over.
Yeah.
Gorgeous kind of, it's kind of a hint of like what John would have done had he gone into the 80s fully. But it had that doo-wop sound because, John had that album a few years prior, that rock and roll album.
Yeah.
That he did all the old rock and roll tunes like Stand By Me by Benny King, which is a moderate hit for him. And I love how Just Like Starting Over sounds. It could have been like if John was in the Wilburys. This kind of sounds like John if he was in the Wilburys to me. And I love how the song rolls along. So me, Instant Karma, Watching the Wheels, and Just Like Starting Over.
3 great ones. Watching the Wheels and Starting Over were near misses for me. I love them both. I love every John song on Double Fantasy, but I didn't put any on this time around.
But you love the Yoko side more.
Nah, Yoko can. I don't want to tell you what Yoko can. But anyway, folks, we have one agreement here, and that's Instant Karma. That was the first thing I wrote down. I remember this coming on the radio when I was like 13 years old, 1970. It made it to number 5. And that line that you mentioned, "We all shine on like the moon and the stars and the sun." I just love those images being raised at that time. It's almost like hippie talk in a way, Why are we in the world? What's it called? Why in the world we here? Surely not to live in pain and fear. Again, John getting his little angst into the song as well. It's a song for the people to live in a better world. That's what he wants. That, power to the people, and Instant Karma fits right into that. Billy Preston's on here. I love the drumming of Alan White as well on here. Fantastic. Phil Spector producing. And John's voice is in top form because that's what he does best. When he's screaming and letting you, it's raw and real. So this is the one that stands out for me. Instant Karma, a great song. Probably my favorite John Lennon song when it comes down to it. The next one I have is Working Class Hero off the Plastic Ono Band album. Just John on acoustic guitar. It's a simple timeless commentary on social structure. The lyrics are to the point, brutally honest, and things are still the same 54 years later in a lot of ways. Um, what's some of the lyrics I wrote down? They hurt you at home, they hit you at school, till you're so effing crazy you can't follow their rules. When they've tortured and scared you for 20 odd years, and they expect you to pick a career when you can't really function, you're so full of fear. Just that whole vibe. Keep you doped with religion, sex, and TV, and you think you're so clever and classless and free, but you're still an effing peasant as far as I can see. I mean, I just like those kind of lyrics, man. I can see myself sitting down and writing that kind of stuff. So I admire that song and that whole album. And the third John Lennon's tune, I just had to go with Imagine. It's too enduring of a classic not to put it on my list. It's his signature song, imagining a better world for everyone else. So Working Class Hero, Instant Karma, and Imagine are my three John Lennon tunes. Although I love the ones you picked as well. They're awesome. Yeah. Now we're up to Paul McCartney, and we've got 4 for Paul. This will give us a little room to play with, but not too much.
Yeah, I bet we match on at least 1 or 2 of these. Okay. Is my guess. And again, I took this as, I'm making this burned, 10-track album for somebody that wants to get into the solo Beatles. Yeah. So with that in mind, I have to start with Band on the Run. Just a killer song. And that song took a new life to me. I know I've talked about this, people that follow me on my channel. The last 2 years, especially when I saw Paul in North Carolina on his most recent tour, that whole show was just an experience for me. I was there with my sister, and for some reason, when he started playing Band on the Run, I just got hit with this emotion because I'm like, here's Paul. He was about a month shy of his 80th birthday. And it was just this moment of, I'm seeing Paul McCartney at 79 years old do Band on the Run, and I'm loving it. And just a killer song. It's one of those classic Paul songs with, kind of a sweet, different time changes and everything. Another song like that is Uncle Albert, which was on my short list. It didn't make the cut. But, you have that whole stuck inside these 4 walls bit with the synth. And then you have the little middle section, If I Ever Get Out of Here, it's kind of crunchy. And then you have the horns come in. The bow, 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 and then the acoustic guitar for the final, couple minutes about the rain exploding with the mighty crash, that 12-string guitar. So good. The guitar is fantastic on it. And again, something that people don't think about is that Paul's doing most of the instruments on this song. Right. He's got Denny Lane playing some filler guitar in there too, but Paul's doing the drums and the bass and all this stuff. And you're thinking you look at the album, you see all these people on the front. You're like, no, it's really just Paul McCartney doing the song, which is wild. So I had to put Band on the Run. It's the signature, Wings song for sure. Yeah. Second one's a little bit of a cheat, but I kind of looked at it as, the way that we look at, Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding by Elton John. These 2 songs, because the first song is only a minute long, I had to put these 2 together, and that's Venus and Mars into Rock Show. Yeah, oh yeah. It's just one of the best openers of all time of any album off of the Venus and Mars album, which I actually preferred to Band on the Run. It was the follow-up. Just, one of those great kind of proggy-ish kind of sounding tunes. He's saying, Venus and Mars are all right tonight, and then it breaks into that and then you start singing about all these, rock and roll venues, Hollywood Bowl, Madison Square. He talks about Jimmy Page, so he's staying relevant in the times in the 70s here. But again, top form for Paul. Wings is at the top of their game. They're just pumping out hits. It's incredible. If you just took Paul McCartney and Wings, he could be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Okay. But he has the Beatles and all the solo stuff, and it's incredible what he can do with that with a hook. So Venus and Mars and Rock Show, my number 2 pick. Number 3, kind of a ballady, kind of, I don't know, yacht rocky kind of tune, and that's a song that I've always loved, and that's Listen to What the Man Said. I absolutely love this tune. it's one of those songs that gets stuck in my head. I love the coda at the end where, he's singing in that falsetto, singing, the wonder of it all, baby.
Yeah.
It's just so good how he sings it. When he says, when he sings something about, soldier boy kisses girl, and you hear like the in the background, it's a little fun little sound effect. So I've always loved listening to what the man said. And then again, Linda sings really great on the harmonies. I love the song so much. So that's my third one. My fourth one is from Red Rose Speedway, and that is the song "Silly Love Songs," which is a song he doesn't play live anymore. Really, I don't know if it's something that reminds him too much of Linda. I don't know why he doesn't do it. I don't think he's ever done it really since he was with Wings. But I think this is one of those songs too that John Lennon even admitted to liking the bass line to it. And this is when him and John were kind of at odds with one another. But it's a killer bass line. Again, it was kind of written as a criticism to people like John, saying, all Paul does is write these, silly little love songs that they don't have any depth to him. He's not, taking politics into his songwriting. Yeah. And that's probably why Paul probably is a little bit more enduring than John, because his weren't topical and his were more timeless as tunes. But I love silly love songs. I love the 3-round vocals at the end with him and Denny and Linda. The how can I tell you about, like that's just it's just so well done how we could take all these different parts and they merge together at the end. It's like an episode of Seinfeld, like all the stories at the end come in.
That's right.
Work. So I've got Band on the Run, Venus and Mars into Rock Show, which I know is a cheat. Listen to What the Man Said, and Silly Love Songs to round out my 10.
They're all great, every one of them. All right, for me, I'm going to start out with Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey. I just love this song. Number one tune from the Ram album. I call it, and I've seen it referred to as progressive pop, because that's what it is. It's like a mosaic of what Paul does best. He takes little fragments of different songs and blends them into this melodic masterpiece. That whole Hands Across the Water, Heads Across the Sky, Live a Little, Be a Gypsy, Get Around, that whole,
love it.
Fantastic. It's just silly and sophisticated at the same time, but yet it works. It's truly unique, and it's his way of creating music. And that's one example. The next example is Band on the Run, which you had. Similar kind of interesting blending of different progressive music progressions I'm looking for here.
Yeah.
Very similar changes with like the Abbey Road suite on side 2, and then Admiral Halsey, or Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey. It reminds me of that structure. And of course, the lyrics are about freedom and escape, stuck inside these 4 walls. He's making a statement about not being criminals for smoking pot, I think, and they just wanted to get away. And the ring exploded with a mighty crash as we fell into the sun. That whole segment there is fantastic. Recorded in Nigeria, as you said. Paul's playing virtually all the instruments: drums, bass, a lot of the guitars. Denny's in there as well. But a fantastic song. Band on the Run, probably my favorite Paul song, but I like Admiral Halsey too as well. Third is Jet. I had to put this on. I mean, again, he's the master of the hooks and the melody. He's got that secret formula for creating these type of songs that nobody else does, really. I like the outro sax at the end. Kind of loose lyrics, the Sergeant Major, the Ladies Suffragette. I don't know how he weaves them all in, but he does it. And I like that ooh, 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 sort of like a Beach Boys style harmony within it, and then that Climb on my back and we'll go for a ride in the sky. Just a really great image and a freedom and escaping. And number 7 hit. I thought it was higher than that on the charts, but a fantastic song. And my last one is a single from 1974, number 3 on the Billboard charts, and that's Junior's Farm. I like the energy of this, a good rocking tune. I like when he says, "Take me down, Jimmy," for Jimmy McCulloch, and the guitar, and the great little solo at the end. It's catchy, it's sing-along. you know, and the lyrics again are throwaway lyrics, but they work in the context of the song. He's talking about playing poker. I had a honey and I bet $1,000 just in the nick of time. I looked at his hand. It's like, you know, you can relate to that kind of stuff, hanging out on the farm. I don't even know where this lyric comes in, but we all chipped in for a bag of cement. I mean, all kinds of weird, kind of workable lyrics on Junior's Farm. It's a cool song. So those are my four: Junior's Farm, Jet, Band on the Run, and Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey.
That's awesome.
So I think we hit on 3, maybe
3. So that's 30%, which is pretty
that's
good.
That's not bad going in blind like that. We had no idea what we were going to pick.
For 50 years worth of music from 4 different guys.
Yeah, I would have taken you for more deep cuts, but I'm glad to see a lot of the hits on.
I had a couple. I had a couple of, just real quick, a couple of songs that didn't make it. I had My Sweet Lord for George. I also had Whatever Gets You Through the Night was up there for John, which I love that tune. I had, for Paul, I had a few that didn't make it. I had Junk. Uncle Albert was one of mine. The deepest cut was a song called She's My Baby from Red Rose Speedway, which is a funky little, really kind of breezy tune. I love it. Mull of Kintyre I also had. And then Good Night Tonight, which was a single as well from Wings. So yeah, I had a few that didn't make it, but I couldn't put songs like Listen to What the Man Said on the back burner because I love that stuff so much.
The ones that came closest for me, obviously My Sweet Lord. It's impossible to leave that off, but I didn't. We both did.
Yeah.
It's an anthem. It's an all-time classic. Everybody knows that. And the Paul songs, you know, I like some of his ballads, like, you know, Live and Let Die, let's say, or My Love, or even Another Day, or what's the one off the Maybe I'm Amazed. Oh, they're all fantastic songs. But I like these energetic, kind of pieced together songs like The Band on the Run and Uncle Albert. Even Junior's Farm is a cool little ditty. So
yeah,
that's where we're at. That was a lot of fun, Sam. Thanks for doing this with me. Appreciate it. Always good to talk Beatles, whether in context of the band or out there with their solo work. So it was fun to do. Please subscribe to Sam St. John. His link will be in the description below. Give us a like, subscribe if you haven't already to either channel, and please leave some comments with your 10 Beatles songs using our structure: 1 Ringo, 2 George, 3 John, 4 Paul. See what you come up with. So for Sam, this is Rich. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.